Hey guys, it's Brian at Sign Me Up Designs again. It's the middle of December and it's cold outside. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some more work to this CB750 here, kind of get it ready for the warmer weather that's coming up. So today we're going to pull the carburetors off. I'm going to show you how to do that. I've pulled them off about 538 times or so now, you know, because they're carburetors and it's not fuel injection. So I'm pretty familiar with how to pull these things off. I'm going to show you guys how to do it today. So this thing's had a fuel leak for a little bit of time now, and today I'm going to actually fix it. I bought a rebuild kit. And I'm going to replace all the seals and gaskets like I probably should have done when I rebuilt it 500, whatever I say, what did I say, 500, whatever. So let's get these things pulled off the bike. All right, getting these carburetors off is pretty simple. Basically, you've got a fuel line right here, you've got the choke cable right here, and then you've got the throttle cable right here. That's just two 10mm jam nuts. And that's just a Phillips head that we get from the other side, and this is just another little hose clamp. So it's going to be a flat blade for me. Now, if you have a factory air box, you're gonna have like a box here and it's gonna be like a little weird collection of stuff that goes up into an air cleaner. But since we don't have any of that, it's gonna be a pretty straightforward removal of this carburetor here. So let's get this thing off and to the bench. Okay, so here's my little rig up here. What I'm doing is I'm just running a regular fuel line up to this little funnel right here. And you know, you can buy those fancy Motion Pro external auxiliary gas tanks and stuff, but this works just as fine. It's way cheaper. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take just some regular gasoline that I poured in here in an old squirt bottle, and I'm going to pour a little bit into this funnel and see if I can check the leak. So we're going to go ahead and do that right now. Let's see if we can find where this thing's leaking. Not seeing anything yet. Oh yeah, see it's coming up out of the carburetors here. So we've got a small leak at this seal right here, and you can see it's actually coming out of the carburetor. So I feel like the float needles probably aren't seating like they're supposed to, but everything else looks pretty good. So all right, we know where to start here. So let's get these float needles replaced and see if that fixes anything. All right, I got these things disassembled here, and there was a lot of sediment down in the bowls and everything, which is kind of weird because there's a little bit right there still. You can kind of see that. It's just sediment that's going to cause problems. Which is kind of weird because I just cleaned these things a few months back, and I've used ethanol-free gas, and it's still, for some reason, just tearing stuff up. I think it's these little plugs here, which are disintegrating over time. But here we go. Here's what it kind of looks like going on in here. And for now, I'm just going to replace these little float needles here because that's where it seems like it's coming out through the front of the carburetors. So I think it's just overflowing past that float. I'm hoping we don't have to replace these because they didn't come in the kit. But for now, we're going to replace these needles, and we're going to replace the bowl gaskets too for now. But you know, these kits, they're just generic kits. That's what they look like. Came in a pack of 4, and they come with just different O-rings and seals and whatnot. And it also comes with the main jets and the pilot jets and everything. And also comes with diaphragm needles and everything too, but we're not going to need all that. I've actually rejetted this thing, so it should be good to go. So for now, we're just going to replace these float needles and bowl gaskets and see what it does. All right, well, unfortunately, we are still leaking out of the overflows for the carburetors. So we have not quite fixed the problem. It looked good at first, but they all overflowed except for this one. This one actually looks pretty good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and order the new floats for all of them. They're old. I guarantee they've never been replaced. If they have, it's been at least 10 years or so. So I'm going to go ahead and order these floats. So for me, it's going to be a few days before these things get here, but for you guys, it's going to be right. All right, well, here they are. It took a few days to get here, like I said, but we've got some brand new floats here. We've got some new float needles. Then we've also got some brand new bypass plugs for inside there. Now these are the old bypass plugs. These things are brittle and like plastic almost. These are actually a rubber, so that's the way they're supposed to be. So these are actually breaking down, and I think that's some of the sediment that I found in the bowls. Anyway, did I mention I hate carburetors? But let's go ahead and get all these things loaded up in the carburetor, clean it out really good. I'm also going to clean the ports with some Q-tips for the float needle ports. I'm going to clean those out really well too. Hopefully that'll kind of get it to where these things won't leak anymore. So let's go ahead and get them done. Also, I'm not going to show you guys the entire procedure on how to rebuild these carburetors. There's plenty of videos out there on YouTube that shows you how to do that. So I'm just going to give you all the time-lapse condensed version, and then we're going to put them back on the bike. got done putting the new floats and everything in. Now we're just gonna go ahead and run some gas through this thing and see what happens, see if we got any more leaks. So here we go. That should be enough to fill the bowls. Let's see if we got anything. We do. Where's that coming from? That's this carburetor. Oh, wait a minute. Is that the O-ring right there? It is. That's the O-ring. That's this O-ring right inside here. Dang it. Okay. Unless it's not. Nope, it's not coming from there. It's this O-ring right there. But it looks like that might be the only place it's coming from. But it's not leaking as bad, so that's a good thing. But let me get this one carburetor back off and we'll go from there. Oh boy, another reason why I hate carburetors, because they're old and a lot of stuff happens. So I don't know if you can see that little screw that's sticking up right in there. This is actually the butterfly for the choke. And what happened was this little screw decided to just go ahead and say, I am done with life. And I broke off inside of the rail for the choke butterflies. And they all these all move together for the choke. So there it is. So anyway, we now have to figure out, we have to drill this out and see if we can find another screw to go in there. It shouldn't be that bad. It's not like it was cross-threaded or anything. So we should be able to just get some vice grips on it and get it out. So let's see. The things I do for you guys and old bikes. All right, so as you can see, what I did was instead of doing this first, I'm drilling and tapping this, I actually went ahead and just pulled the carburetor back far enough to get it out and get access to these O-rings right here. And I replaced both these O-rings and then put everything back together. So if for some reason we can't get this thing out, it doesn't really matter. I don't really run the choke on this thing anyway to get it started. So I'm still gonna try to make an effort to get this thing out and replace it and get the choke butterflies like they're supposed to be. But for now, we're good to go. We can at least put it back on the bike and see if it starts. All right, well, as you can see, the choke's working great. Don't worry about that bolt that's not there. Don't worry about that at all. No, I'm just kidding. So we're not even gonna mess with that. The choke's working. I'm not spending the time on doing that right now. I can always do that later if I need to. So for now, it's working. We don't really even use that anyway, so it's whatever. For the love of Pete, please don't leak. You know, it doesn't look too bad. I feel like we might have this thing licked. Tilt it back a little bit. This is where it was leaking out of before, right here where the velocity stacks bolt onto the carburetor. And I don't see anything leaking. I think we might have got it, y'all. It is looking good to me. None of the overflows have anything coming out of them either. So that means that the needles are seating like they're supposed to, and it's not overrunning the carburetors. So man, I think we might have got it. Heck yeah. All right, now let's get it thrown back on the motorcycle. Before we start this thing up, I want to show you guys something. I don't know if I've mentioned this or if you guys have taken notice, but those of you who know these 1980 CB750s, you'll know that these are electric start. They're not kickstart. There's no Kickstarter anywhere in here. So what I've done, and this was very, very important to me, the only wiring that you can kind of see is, this is what made me think of this. I was plugging the battery charger in. Hang on. So that kind of just sits in there. That's just a quick access for the battery charger. But if you notice, there is almost no wiring to be seen with the exception of this ground wire and the regular wires going down to the pickup and everything, the oil feed. there is no wiring at all exposed on this bike. And I did that on purpose. I didn't want any wiring exposed because it's just ugly. You know, a lot of the wiring is just ugly. These are the two wires going down to the starter, and I believe the stator, maybe? I can't remember, but those two wires there, and everything else kind of just follows the frame. This is the brake line, but everything else follows the frame all the way up. So I'm not going to show you in this video, but maybe if you guys are interested, I'll show you how I kind of did that. But this is an electric start bike. You're going to see that here whenever we crank it up. The battery is actually, I don't know if you can see it, but it's actually under the hump on the seat. And I actually built this plate right here, and I took all the electronics, the starter solenoid, the rectifiers, everything that I needed to do, and I don't know if you can really see in there, but right underneath the seat, everything is mounted. I made a plate and mounted everything extremely, extremely cleanly and simplified the entire wiring system for this. So obviously there's going to be some wires up here for the headlight and the speedometer, but if you can tell, I made, God, spider webs, I need to ride this thing. Like, I made everything as clean as I could possibly get it, ran it right down here through the gas tank. The coils and everything are right here. So all the wiring is just, you know, very, very minimalist on this bike. I did that on purpose. I really wanted to make sure the wiring was clean and that people looked at it and said, holy shit, this might be a kickstart bike. Where's the Kickstarter? So, I don't know, just something I'm kind of proud of. You know, it took a little bit of effort to go that extra mile, but I think it was totally worth it. Okay, I got everything hooked up, and it's time to start this thing now. I haven't started it in, I mean, probably 5 months or so. And the starter does hang up on this thing. It's kind of a common problem, but, you know, these things don't really have parts readily available for them. So I'm just going to try to start it and see what happens. You're probably going to hear the starter kind of overrun for a second, but don't worry, that's normal. You'll see what I'm talking about here in just a second. All right, I'm also going to turn the fuel on here and see what we got going on. All right, fuel is on. No leaks yet, which is a good thing. Okay. Got good fuel in our filter. Nothing seems to be overflowing yet. Oh, that one's got a little bit of overflow. Dang it. I was going to do the old taparoo on the float just to make sure it's seating like it's supposed to. Alright, well, let's try to crank it and see what happens. Okay, well, obviously our idle is way too high, so let's go ahead and fix that real quick. There's the idle screw right there. You can see it kind of sitting right there. So, you know, this thing's been so finicky and quirky over the years. That's why I never really got as much use out of this thing as I'd like to. But it kind of looks like the fuel isn't leaking quite as bad, so that's a good sign. I think it's just a little bit too high of idle right now. So I'm going to tweak that a little bit and see if I can get it started again. Alright, well, there it is all back together, guys. As you can see, things got a little bit smoky there. I think it's still got a little bit of a misfire on cylinder 1, which is this cylinder right here. This exhaust header wasn't getting as hot as the other one, so I think it wasn't getting fuel, or maybe the spark plug was fouled or something on this thing. But, you know, it's just carburetors, that's how they go. I've made a decision, guys. I think I'm going to sell this bike. So if any of you guys are interested in this thing, it's a 1980 Honda CB750. It does run, it does drive, it needs a little bit of carburetor tuning still, a little bit. It needs to go to somebody who really knows what they're doing with these carburetors. And you know, I've had my fun with this bike, and it's just time for it to go to somebody else. So if you're interested, follow me on Instagram. It's _Brian Rogers. Send me a direct message. I'll let you know what I'm thinking on price. I'm not gonna give it away, but you know, I will make somebody a fair deal if they're interested in it. I might even be open to trades, maybe some like UTV side-by-sides or something like that. You know, projects are okay, but I kind of want to make the value about the same. I mean, this is a running bike. It does have a couple issues, but nothing too serious. So I would expect the trade value to be about the same. So that's going to do it for today, guys. Let me know what you think down in the comments section about this CB750. I really enjoy the bike. It's been a lot of fun, but I think it's time to pass it on to somebody else. So thanks again for watching, guys. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button, and follow me, _Brian Rogers, on Instagram, where you can get an inside scoop on what's going on before I post videos to YouTube. So thanks again for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next one.